You got us recorded?
Yep. So I
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is to approve our minutes from the last meeting, which was way back in July 30th. And Daphne has them on it's a long set of minutes there as we discussed the Restoring Hope House and what we wanted to see done and so on. So is there a motion to approve said minutes? Eric?
I feel a little sheepish considering I missed it and already,
Well, we need a motion and then a second, and then we can
Oh,
discuss.
yeah.
I'll move then.
I don't think,
Well,
I don't think Baker, I don't think Eric can make the motion since he wasn't there.
I'll make
So-
the motion.
I don't know formally if that
Okay,
prohibits me from, but it
you're
just
good.
seems
All right, Amy.
bad form.
Amy, that's good. I can second that motion, Amy.
All right, so the motion has been made and seconded. Is that correct? Is that right, Daphne?
Yes.
All right, so now, are there any discussions, changes, corrections to these minutes?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Brian.
What? Doesn't seem like anything happened over there. What's going on? Nothing's happened at the site. What?
Yeah, nothing as far as I know.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. I don't think they've actually, I don't know if they've brought it to Plan Commission yet. I think they've had some issues. I think with stormwater was the last I heard. So they've been working on some of those, and then I'm sure with the pandemic and everything, everything just kind of slowed down. So I'm not sure, if they want even construction to be happening while they have guests there and all of that. So from what I've heard last, they had some stormwater issues, and then everything just slowed down.
Any corrections, changes? All those in favor of approving, raise your hand or say aye or something.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All those that have said aye, I guess it's unanimous. We approve the minutes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to recognize a former member, Carolyn Matern. And Carolyn has left our commission because she moved out of Middleton. And she moved to Madison and felt that because of the rules, she would not be able to belong anymore. So she sent in her resignation. And of course, we've now replaced her. I guess one thing I would say about Carolyn, she was a great researcher and dug into the facts. She was, of course, a member of the State Historical Society. So she really knew her stuff, knows her stuff. She's still around and gave us a lot of valuable insight on a variety of topics. I would suggest that if we have a question in the future regarding any particular historical aspect, that she would be, I'm sure, happy to do a little research for us if we were to approach her. I know she's still on the Historical Society Board of Directors, and I'm sure she would be delighted to dig into some old facts and give us an update or something. So,
Well, she had submitted some comments on this, what we're talking about tonight too, on the comprehensive plan.
yeah.
And I did reach out to her this morning. I had wanted to talk to her about some of the concerns I had about the zoning. So I did talk to her today, and she is, like you said, she's very, very easy to talk to and is willing to help out where needed. You're right, Jeff.
Yeah, she would certainly do that if we need a resource. So, and she would be an excellent one. She may have left Middleton, but she sure still knows it pretty well.
Right. Very true.
Anybody else want to add a comment concerning Carolyn? She wasn't on the board long or on our commission long.
I'm glad she's still in the Historical Society. We have that, so that's good.
Well, I would then like to welcome our newest member, Susan Bradley. I see you there. I do not know you, but I would like to offer you the opportunity of giving us a little info about yourself.
Well, I'm fairly new to Middleton, so I'm hoping that I can be of some use. I like to work on committees with groups of people. We moved here from Columbia County, where I was on the county board, and I did serve on the Land Information Committee, which dealt with landmarks. And I guess I just hope I can be of help.
Well, I'm sure you can. We need dedicated folks on the board, that's for sure. Anybody have a question for Susan, or do you go by Sue or Suzanne?
Suzanne, well, you can call me Sue or Susanna, either way.
Either way, excellent. Well, welcome, and we're happy to have you on board, that's for darn sure.
Do we want to do a quick introduction of everyone else that's on the committee?
What's that?
Do we want to do a quick introduction of everyone else?
Oh, of everybody? Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'm Jeff Martin, waving my hand. Kathy?
I'm Kathy Olson. I've lived in Middleton for 30 years and we live not too far from the Raleigh House in downtown. So,
Not far, that's for sure.
yeah.
Like 7 feet.
Brian, why don't you go ahead?
Don?
Well, I'm Brian Strasburg. I'm the guy making odd remarks as the meeting's going on, and you can't see my face apparently. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Okay. Welcome to you.
Ryan, are you sitting in front of a camera where we would, potentially be able to see your face?
Let's hope not.
Or are you thinking that there's a secret camera in the phone?
I think Brian's going to draw a cartoon and send that to us.
Yeah, maybe that's what. Yeah, I'll work on that later.
Since I'm already interrupting, my name's Eric Baker. I've lived in Middleton since 2006. I live in the Stonefield neighborhood.
Amy?
Yeah, I am Amy Hootman. I am also fairly new to Middleton. I moved here in the summer of 2019, and I started on the commission over the summer of 2020, so still fairly new.
And last but not least, John Bechtel.
Where did you come from?
What was that?
I said,
John?
Amy, where did you come from? Where were you before?
Before this, I was in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Okay.
All right, I'm John, and I've lived in Middleton since 2004, and I think I've been on the commission since about 2015.
John, it seems a lot longer though, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but at least we can't see your face, so so far that's the best part of this meeting, Brian. I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, you're not.
Well, Susanna, I would like to say that when you look at the date on the minutes that we just approved of July 30th, you can see that being on this commission is quite a burden. We have lots of meetings, and so we won't be taxing too much of your time, as you can see. Okay, I guess we should move along. We have quite a bit to discuss here, probably concerning the next topic, which is the City of Middleton's 2021 comprehensive plan. And the reason we're convening here tonight, I think, primarily is a request from Kathy Olson to have a reaction from us to parts of the plan. And so I would like to turn it over to Kathy and let you sort of lead the discussion, if you would then.
Well, I'm not sure if I need to lead it. I think we should go through what Carolyn has submitted, and John, you've submitted some comments. And then I've also, my biggest concern is I sent a very, very late memo. I'm sorry. But
Oh, it's okay.
it's about the zoning of, and I don't think that it's an intentional that the Raleigh House is zoned government institutional, but I also want to be very proactive on making sure that the zoning fits the landmark designation and of both the City Hall site and of the Raleigh House.
Yeah,
So
so as you can see, these are Kathy's comments. So this is our future land use map, just snipped to that part of the downtown. You can see the Raleigh House's government is institutional here.
And you're proposing something down at the bottom of that sheet, Kathy, that
I would like to get a comment to Plan Commission. I would like to find out what the support is from the Landmarks Commission about a different kind of zoning that's more compatible with the historic nature of this area. especially as they're going through the community campus planning. I think it's very important that we show that the zoning of these spots are compatible with the historic buildings downtown here and the Raleigh House. So do we want to start with this, or do we want to do Carolyn's, or how do you want to do that?
Well, why don't we go ahead with this since you started
Okay.
out with this? This
Okay.
shouldn't take as long. You said you would like to change, or you're in your statement here, it says we support changing the proposed zoning from government and institutional. So do you have a recommended change to what?
Well, there are, Daphne, I do have all the different zoning, they're listed here. And the one that I was kind of zoning in on, it's not perfect for this, but I was thinking the one would be neighborhood mixed use. I know some of the neighborhoods around here would love nothing more than to see green space, but I don't think that you can, the land down here is so valuable, and the city needs to be able to develop this as needed, but I would like to see it turn to neighborhood mixed use, and I can call up what that is. I do have it in one of these comments.
Yeah, and I can pull it up in our comp plan as well.
Okay, neighborhood.
It's on page 21, I think.
Yeah.
The other one would be a multifamily residential. The only part I'm not convinced about is how these neighborhood mixed use, it talks about being in the scale of it, but then it goes on to say that not to exceed 5 stories. But if it were in the scale, I don't think that scares people when they see not to exceed 5 stories.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. That's that opens up quite a can of worms there, really, that last sentence, doesn't it? Yeah.
And when you look at the government institutional, I see that as even larger than that. I didn't see a limit for that. So that's where I am. And multifamily residential wouldn't, depending on it, but I would see the neighborhood mixed use as maybe an example that would be able to use.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have some thoughts on that?
Well, is there some preliminary plan for what they're doing? I mean, or what do you think their intent is, or is there something that's been?
Well, it hasn't been designed. Oh, Daphne, maybe you'd like to speak to this.
For the community campus plan?
Yes.
Yeah, so there hasn't really been a full, they've come up with some kinds of concepts, and at least from that kind of subcommittee that was formed for the community campus, none of the committee members really thought they were good concepts. There are all these different heights, and the Raleigh House isn't included in the community campus plan, but it is, literally right next to City Hall, which is included. And so some of those concepts range from 4 to 5 stories, where City Hall and the library would be. So those are, way bigger than the Raleigh House is currently. And I think, at least from this land use criteria, it would probably be, the government institutional, but the sizing wise, it would be similar to the multifamily residential, where it is a larger scale. So yeah, but there haven't been, any concrete plans that have been.
One idea that was floated is similar, and it's really confusing because we talk about things and then it'll come back with a plan that it's doesn't include only one concept. But one thing that they talked about was a community land trust where the city could still own the property and possibly develop some townhomes, with a historic look to them. And similar to what they have at Hilldale, and that, that kind of scale, but more historic looking. And then they could offer those for first time home buyers or a lower income, and they could build up some equity in that. I would support something like that. I don't know how many, and it wouldn't be for the whole site, but only the site that abuts the residential buildings on this block. So it'd only be half of City Hall.
Mhm.
But it'd be enough to distance from the Rowley House and offer a buffer for the residents.
Can we back up a second? Is there a proposal already out to change this from government and institutional to another category?
It's currently not government and institutional. That's why this is on the future zoning map, land map.
I believe right now it's zoned like single family.
What scope could you go to where we're talking so we can specifically see the? Are we talking about just the lots directly surrounding the Rowley house?
There's nine homes on this lot, on this block.
Right. So the community campus plan, I believe, yeah. So like this is like the library, this is City Hall, and then this is the Rowley House, which currently in our current zoning map is yellow like the rest of the neighborhood. And then all of this is downtown. And so I think the idea of turning the Rowley House blue into this government and institutional is because its use is like, I guess technically a museum would be like institutional in, you know, in Madison terms, or, you know, Chicago, when you think of like the like the Art Institute, that is considered institutional because it's like a large institution. But you know, the Rowley House is definitely on a different scale. It's much smaller, and so this, yeah, I understand Kathy's concern when, you know, you say it's institutional and it's this large scale.
Institutional also means. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, the definition of government and institutional in this document is large scale. And also St. Luke's and the DAC are also designated government and institutional. I do have an email into Abby asking if this small scale institutional is going to be defined. But in here, if it were to go through labeled like this, it would say that this area is possibly going to be large scale public building, hospital, or special care facility, which I don't think that the St. Luke's, the DAC, or the downtown is looking for that. I think it would be better to clean this up before it gets published.
What other government zoning categories are there for government buildings other than government and institutional?
That's basically it. I think anything that, you know.
I think that does include City Hall or a small elementary school or anything like that. And actually, it's more exclusive than some of the other categories in that it would have to be a public facility. And so the city is going to have to approve whatever the plan is. And presumably the city would want something consistent with what the Rowley House is, with what, you know, being adjacent to the Rowley House. And if we wanted to go ahead with something other, it could simply change zoning at that time. So I actually think this government and institutional actually provides very good protection relative to other choices other than public park and recreation, which, as you said, probably isn't going there.
Eric, I totally disagree with you on this.
Okay.
because government and institutional, the Rowley House is not a large scale public building, hospital, or special care facility, and it never will be. And I would not, and I don't believe St. Luke's would ever be that.
Maybe
It's
it would be.
The building they would build next door would be though, right, Kathy? The building that could be built next door to Rowley when that City Hall is torn down.
Right, but part of what we're to do is to preserve the historic areas in the city.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe a better option would be to change it to this established neighborhood. The idea behind this category is basically, you know, all of our existing residential areas, there aren't going to be any like major changes to any of those. So we kind of just, you know, combine them all into established neighborhoods. That way, you know, the whole point is to preserve the character and to keep, you know, whatever is there that we like already. You know, it's basically just
right.
like that. And the rest of the neighborhood next to the Rowley House is all this established neighborhood.
The thing that I think that would be an excellent choice of selection. These buildings here, there is already one of the properties that has an auxiliary dwelling unit. There's another one that has gone through the zoning board that has allowed the auxiliary dwelling unit. I know, like Steve, we finished our basement with a small kitchenette and a full bath, so it could be like a mother-in-law suite. So this neighborhood down here is really embracing the established neighborhood concept of infill, and I think that that would be a good choice. And that's why I'm thinking maybe like this community land trust, that this could be for Middleton. It would be setting the it'd be a leader in this infill and being creative in ways to do it, because the neighborhood already has excellent examples of the auxiliary dwelling unit. And if you had a land trust that is trying to support and promote first-time home buyers, building up their equity, for especially if they have a limited income, I think that would be an excellent choice.
Anybody else?
So
have a
Kathy,
comment?
are you saying to change this from, or so maybe the idea is not mixed use, but established neighborhood? Is that what you're saying?
I was going to check now, Daphne, did you only mean for the Raleigh house right now is what you're thinking? Or are you thinking for the part of the City Hall property that abuts up to the other established neighbor residences?
I was thinking of just having Raleigh House do as, sorry, I'm trying to zoom in. I was just thinking of changing Raleigh House to the established neighborhood.
Okay.
And then I do know that, like, the concern is that, City Hall, if it's built up to 5 stories or whatever, it'll kind of just clash with what is right next to it. But
I think if a 5-story building is put in there, that will definitely impact the value of the homes, and it will take away from the historic asset that the Raleigh house is.
Yeah, definitely.
And part of our task here is to make sure that the home values and property values are remain stable too.
Well,
I
are we
was
ready?
the idea, Kathy, you had mentioned like sort of a transition, where you're saying maybe two stories done in a traditional manner that would be that then would be connected on to whatever was built after that. That's correct?
So like row houses or townhouses or something.
Yeah. So you have like sort of a buffer before the actual, the campus starts. I think that's what you're saying. I think, right?
That's what I'm saying. I think that would complement the whole block neighborhood. So.
Right. So that you have visually you have a transition from the Raleigh house to a small area that's sort of in the same vein, and then on to the actual structure of whatever they're going to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm jumping ahead here, but what do we, in the end, what would we do? Make some type of we would just say that we've discussed this and we're making recommendations. Is that what we do? In the end, I know I'm way ahead of myself here, but is that where we go with this? Is to say we're concerned about this, and then obviously write something up that talks about our concerns and what we think would be the proper thing to do. Is that where we're heading with this?
Well, Kathy already has a statement at the bottom of that other page, and I think we ought to react to that statement. And if it's satisfactory, then we could submit that to the Plan Commission. Although I would like to see it add the recommended one that Kathy is talking about. If we decide that instead of government and institutional, we like the neighborhood, whatever there, or the neighborhood mixed use, we should add that in there.
If we did that, I would like to make a caveat that maybe and they have done this at Plan Commission, they've eliminated from the avenue mixed use the height, because it's already says that it would be compatible. So it wouldn't say up to 5 stories.
Okay.
And also within the the comprehensive planning document, they too talk quite a bit about missing, it's called the missing middle housing. And I think that the row houses or townhouses would help fulfill that portion of the comprehensive plan too. I think it dovetail nicely with what they're trying to do with that.
Well, there's a lot of possibilities no matter what zoning category we might end up with, obviously, but I think it would be at this juncture just wise for us to make a statement along the line of Kathy's statement here and submit that if that makes everybody happy. I mean, we could debate what kind of houses and buildings for.
Okay. So you're supportive of doing it for the portion of the city hall site that is adjacent to the historic homes and the Rowley House.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't impact the Rowley House per se too much. I mean, the view from the Rowley House looking at City Hall right now is not all that pretty. And so,
But if you look at it 5 stories high,
I know it. So
yeah,
that could impact our view, but
yeah.
so I think it's mainly to cushion the Rowley House from giant buildings next door. Yeah.
Well, even if just to make them compatible, So let's see.
What do you think,
So-
John? You have been silent. Anything?
I guess I don't understand. Obviously, well, I mean, I agree with Kathy's premise that we would hope to protect the Raleigh House and not have a 5-story building go next to it. But and as far as changing it to neighborhood mixed use, sure. I mean, that would make sense to me for that. But I don't know. In your statement here, you're proposing that City Hall not be zoned as government or institutional. And I don't know how we would do that for City Hall. I mean, this
is for for future when they're doing the community campus plan.
Right.
That they would start thinking about 4 or 5-story building.
Well, I think at that point is when we would bring it up. I mean, if you want a voice, I would make it clear that we're concerned about, we'd like to see Raleigh House rezoned and any future development of the campus plan take, the architecture of the Raleigh House into consideration. I don't know that at this point to say we don't want City Hall zoned as a government building because we don't want you to build a 5-story building there. To me, it's right, Daphne. No one's proposed that so far. So I'm not really sure, and it's City Hall.
Well,
Now I give you that the city is putting up 5-story buildings right next to homes all over the place right now. So
where is that?
well, Clark Street or down in Parmenter. I mean, the cap is 3 stories.
Right.
Unless you get an exception, but apparently everybody gets an exception.
Are
So
they next
I'm just
to-
saying that because I understand that I could see City Hall coming back and say, hey, we need to go from a 1-story building with a basement to 5 stories. Okay. I mean, at that point, I think we would be concerned about the Raleigh House. I just don't see right now that to say that City Hall can't be zoned government. I'm not sure that's, I think it's worthwhile to address the zoning of the Raleigh House and to express concerns about any future planning for City Hall. I absolutely concur with you on that.
Okay.
But to specify that it can't be zoned, I mean, if it's zoned, if they don't build anything there, and City Hall never changes, then I mean it's fine, right? I mean the architecture right now doesn't go with.
No, you're right. I'm only looking forward to when they and they're planning the community campus and it's moving forward, planning it. And this is where I'm hoping that we can have a little forethought and get out ahead of some of this, that they're not going to be putting in this. I'm still trying to think of what is where there is a building adjacent to, I know on Parmenter, they're not adjacent to any homes on Parmenter.
Oh, across the street.
Oh, you mean like the, where the Pines used to be?
Yeah, right there on Clark Street, right there across the street. So.
Right. And this is not, and they're not exactly in their backyards either. So, or
And,
next to
Terrace Avenue.
that building isn't next to
No, it's across the street. It's across the street, a residential street. It went to 4 stories.
It's 5 stories actually.
Well, there you go.
You mean the
Prove-
phase
you
3,
proved
they're
his
3
point.
stories. They're 3 stories. I thought you meant Middleton Station Apartments. You're right. And I think that they worked to keep them on 3-story because they were across the street from residences. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 3-story.
So I only bring that up because I think it is a valid concern.
Okay.
As a Middleton resident, I absolutely see the city saying, boom, 5-story.
Yeah. Okay. So what you want me to craft on this statement for a little while, and I can write on a little bit while you're talking about the other things too, but you want to, and that as City Hall undergoes changes, we want to make sure it's harmonious, compatible, and sensitive to the historic significance of the surrounding adjacent historic homes.
Yeah, I would have been like to see it, if they're going to rebuild City Hall, kind of tie into the Opera House and some other architecture of the older buildings down there. I mean, not just the Rally House, but all, I mean,
the Middleton.
I don't think we have any leverage. But
yeah, I agree that a statement to keep the harmony and to take into account the value of this historic site, I think is appropriate. I will be a very interested observer to see if the Landmarks Commission is able to block the city's plan and the overall desire to put whatever it wants to on that site. And honestly, I'm kind of ambivalent. I think a very good large institution, if there's proper setbacks, if there's surrounding, walkways, type of things, maybe a cityscape type of walkway, a park type of thing, maybe even smaller. I think those could coexist, but I'm kind of ambivalent. I'll rah and cheer for the Landmarks Commission. I'd love to see that battle go forward. I think we lose at the end of the day.
I think sometimes the Landmarks Committee has sold itself very short.
Okay.
We mounted a pretty good campaign to keep the friendly store as best we could, and it worked. So I think we have to make sure that we're not selling ourselves too short. So
I think we did, and I think it was working with the stakeholders to say, hey, we get what you want to do. We just want to see you guys make sure you enhance these historic assets that we have. And when it was approached that way, I think it was very successful. I think we don't want this zoned a certain way going forward based on some hypothetical, down the road. I don't know how far we're going to get.
Well, we have to.
Well, this would only be like a preliminary recommendation on the whole issue. That it basically raising the concern that we have of this. We're not making specific suggestions. Is that what you're saying, Kathy? Right?
Yeah.
You're just at this point, what you're doing is raising the issue.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So we're not really going into specifics about about some specific recommendation.
So is the consensus that Kathy should rewrite that statement a little bit?
I'm working on it right now. So if you guys want to go on and
can we move on to something else and come back to this then maybe before the.
Is this something we need to act on tonight? I don't think it was on an agenda that we're doing this as far as making a specific statement. If we can have something to consider next meeting, I think that'll
The
be
Plan Commission this is moving through committee now. Plan Commission will be looking at things next Tuesday. This is something that's been it's been out for a while, and it's just getting down to the wire, and that's why I kind of pushed to get it on for us to have a meeting.
Yeah, so any statement that we craft now, or if we can move, if you guys, all agree on what Kathy writes and some of the other comments that we've had sent in, we can, say, Landmark Commission supports making these modifications, and those modifications will go up to Plan Commission, and if Plan Commission accepts those, then we can make those changes into the comprehensive plan.
All right, then, let Kathy work on a statement and we'll move ahead to additional parts of that plan. I think the main part of the plan that concerns us, and I might be wrong, but I think it's in that section called character. Is that correct?
Yes.
There's the chapter called character, and in that chapter there are 2 or 3 things that we might want to react to. The statement, there's 3 strategies that they have identified. One is the one that of concern to us, to preserve and honor the historic and cultural assets in Middleton. I assume everyone's had a chance to take a peek at that. There are several action statements, A, B, C, D, E, and I guess that's it, F. Yeah, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And I assume that one of the reasons Kathy wanted to have this meeting was so that we would react to those statements. And maybe Daphne as well wants that. So I guess we would open it up for discussion and comments on any of those action items.
Yeah, we can go ahead and we can look at John's statement that he brought up through email. John, if you want to discuss them.
Yeah, so one of the things is since we're doing this master plan, I thought, while there's certainly historical landmarks, there might be some other kind of landmarks within Middleton that maybe we aren't thinking about that we might want to consider adding. And maybe some of the newer people like Amy or Sue who see things around Middleton and say, wow, that's really fascinating. How come that's not a landmark? That might help. Two things that I just put on there as an example is the natural springs up in Pheasant Branch Conservancy. And there's a nice write-up about it up there. It belongs to the parks, I'm assuming, Daphne. But I guess because the springs never freeze, there's a constant temperature, Native Americans camp there. And I just think something like that, if you're looking at a bigger, kind of back off just the historical aspect, but kind of the educational landmarks in Middleton, that might be considered one. And then even the Veterans Tribute that was built a few years ago on Allen Boulevard. If you've been down there, it has a list of Middleton residents who died in each of the wars going back to the Civil War. And so there's some educational thing about that, but something like that might be worthwhile to consider. And reading through the ordinance that establishes a commission, it sounds like, and I know we've got into this before, but it sounds like we just decide that something's going to be a landmark and we pick it out. Anyway, I just see this as an opportunity as we're looking at the map. There might be some more things we might want to consider as landmarks, and maybe a fresh set of eyes like Amy or Sue might actually, I think folks that have lived here since the 1800s, like Jeff, might take a lot of these special things for granted. And then So that's the first point I was making. The second point, when we get into historical properties, I don't see that there's any incentive for a private owner of a historical property to have their stuff designated as a historical property. Other than they get to add another step to any sort of building permit that they get. And I don't know, a great incentive is money. And so a suggestion. Well, the other thing we were concerned about is, does this private owner of his historical property maintain it to a presentable standard? And some I have, some not so much. This would be an incentive, I think, for them to do that. And so I'm just throwing out as an example, I mean, is perhaps the Landmarks Commission, I know this would have to go to probably the city council for approval, but to incentivize, it could be all landmarks. It could just be residential historical landmarks. It could be residential and business. I think, Kathy, you probably have something in all those categories. But maybe like a refund. Whatever your property taxes are, there's a set amount. If you own a historical designated building recognized by the Landmarks Commission, that if it is maintained to a certain standard, and that's something that we'd have to define, that after the Landmarks Commission said is yes, it's being maintained to the standard, the city refunds 5% of your property tax as an incentive. So I'm just throwing this out there because really there isn't. I mean, we discussed like the Frank Lloyd Wright, the guy that was a protege of Frank Lloyd Wright, who designed the house on Parmenter and Hillcrest. That owner who's on the Taliesin committee doesn't want her house to be in a designated landmark when really it should be, but there's no incentive, right? So what can we do to incentivize? And then like the house by the pool, that's the Sears kit house that's seen better days, but a very interesting kit. This might be an incentive to, hey, we're going to give you 5% back if you pressure wash your house and maybe paint the trim a little bit. I don't know that homeowner. I'm not trying to badmouth him or anything, but it could use a little sprucing up. And I think Brian has brought that up before, actually, that specific property. So those are the two things I took out of reading the character part of, and I'll just two ideas. I'm just throwing them out there.
I think it brings up two very good points. And if I could, I'd like to comment on both of them to just kind of back up, reinforce what John was saying. I don't know and I think I saw it at one point looking through when we were going through cataloging, inventorying our landmarks. I don't know the date of the most recent landmark designation that's been made for the city, but I'm pretty sure it goes back before my time being on the board. And so that's got to be a number of years. So I think the idea of as a goal or as an initiative of this commission to actually, be thinking about what do we need to be thinking about adding to our designated landmarks. I think that's a very good idea. And we don't need to decide on what they are tonight. John gave us some good examples, but I think that's something we've spent. I do remember us having a discussion one time about the fact that there's a district, and I think it's around the Hubbard area, one part of Hubbard, that's a collection of craftsman homes or something like that, period craftsman homes, that could be a district, for example. But I believe that was a discussion. Brian, I think you were involved in that discussion, might have been leading that discussion, or at least kibitzing in quite profusely on it. But I don't recall ever going back to that. But I think, one, making an initiative, either a sub committee or an initiative of this committee, to spend some time thinking about additional landmarks to add would be good. Second, I think some form of incentive so that there is something of value to being a designated landmark and some support, because not just making changes, not just expensive and added step in getting a building permit, but maintaining properly these historic sites costs additional money. It's much more expensive to do a siding issue. I just re-sided my home. I'm sure it was a lot less costly and it was a lot more efficient for me to do than on a historic home. So I think some form of incentive, I think, is appropriate. I think a tax credit just for maintaining it. I mean, the problem is that you've got a variety of landmarks that have much different level of investments, right? So to give them all some, and I'm not saying, John, it's a great idea. So I'm not, discounting the idea, but some sort of incentive, I think, should be another initiative. Something like, I don't know if other landmarks commissions in Wisconsin have grants, but a grant program to support if a homeowner has an issue. We've had this come up before where we've had issues that we've identified, we've talked about with people that have come before us with issues, and we've pointed out problems with their exterior of their home. But our hands are kind of tied. We don't have money to do it. But a grant program would allow us to initiate a dialogue with somebody when we see one of our landmarks that is in disrepair or needs some maintenance. It would also allow people to identify for themselves, to, hey, submit a grant, say, I'd like some money to support what I want to do. I think those are both excellent suggestions.
Is
Go ahead,
is
Amy.
the grant kind of that idea? Is that something that we could talk to like the Historical Society about? I don't know exactly what the process is, but for governments like Middleton, doesn't SHPO or the Historical Society provide grants for local certified governments?
Provide what?
Like grant opportunities?
We don't, as a local historical society, no.
We haven't, and there are other programs. I'm aware, I've seen documents on them. I get some of now that I've been on the Landmarks Commission, I get some of these things in the mail. But certainly if we're talking about government monies, deferring taxes or refunds, or another option is to submit as part of our budget an idea for a grant program and see if we could get some money for a grant program. And that would allow us to have money that the commission would direct towards if people have issues.
Okay.
I just like
I think these are good ideas. That's a very intriguing. In the past, what's happened is the state obviously has grants that I think come through the feds, but most of the time so far those are for very specific things. In other words, there's grant money available for A, B, or C, and then if that's something you're interested in, you would apply for it. When we did the depot stuff, when we did all the enhancement at the depot, I believe that was a grant specifically for that, I think. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And I think maybe we should be more in tune with seeing what's available and talking to somebody up at the state to see what they have. Maybe some of those things that they have available would cover something like that. So yeah, I think those are great ideas. Although in the past, the grants that we've gotten have been from the state, and that money obviously initially comes from the feds. So yeah, that's a good idea. That would be one place to look into that to see what's possible there. I mean, that would be another avenue for that.
I serve on some nonprofits, and I know that and they put in grants to various organizations, private and public. And I know those grant applications are often enhanced if there's other partners that have a grant as well, right? So it might actually enhance our local opportunities. I don't know, but it might enhance our local opportunities if we have a grant program and we're able to go to the State Historical Society or some of these other programs. And then that grant, the person or entity submitting the grant is able to say, by the way, the Middleton Landmarks Commission has approved a grant to support this. We have additional money we need, grant money. I know at least in other instances, especially the fine arts and youth arts, that definitely puts your grant proposal at the top of the heap. But the two ideas John brought up, let's form some type of either us as a committee or a subcommittee to look at additional landmark commission
Yeah,
opportunities.
I think the ideas are really great, and I think your last comment is a good one. I think we need a subcommittee to take a look at this in more detail. And I would like to say John and Eric and anybody else to serve on that little subcommittee and bring back some information. Is that good? Is that good with you two guys? Amy,
Good,
are you
John. Thanks for
interested in
stopping
that
by.
as well? Because we
that
can
was-
talk about this all night, but we don't really have any great background, any data. And if you could come back with some ideas more specific, I think that would be outstanding.
Jeff, can I propose a first step that
All
we
right.
agree as a group that these two initiatives, one, coming up with a plan for how we identify and develop new landmark opportunities to pursue, and two, that we make an initiative, one of our initiatives, to try to develop some type of incentive for our landmark owners to support their ownership. And
All right. I like that. I like that proposal, but let me just go back to the first part and talking about additional historic sites. We've already done quite a bit of background research on that, the Historical Society, and I attribute that to Carolyn, our former member. And she has put together a list that I'm holding here in my hand now, other historical buildings that might be good candidates for landmark designation. For example, the Dufresne Building on Parmaker Street, the Preen Building on Hubbard Avenue, St. Bernard's Catholic Church, the First Lutheran Church, the Valencia Pet Building, you all know where that is on Elmwood there, the Rowan St. Cyr Trading Post, the Black Hawk Encampment, the East End District, the Joseph Heim House, the Herbert and Catherine Jacobs House, the A.B. Kingsley House, and the A.B. Parmenter House. So we have a list here of a dozen or so that she's done quite a bit of research on and got some facts more than just the names. And that, I think, would be a great place to start with that inventory of additional possibilities. And should we decide to pursue it in a bit more depth, I'm sure I can get Carolyn to come back and serve as one of our resource persons, if that would be all right with you folks.
How much of an incentive would it be for, because a lot of these buildings that you're mentioning are not residential homes, like you have the Pet Milk Building, the churches, and like the church probably doesn't pay property taxes or whatever. More of an incentive to be landmarked is that we would partner with them if they wanted to submit for grants. I think that'd be one thing that would be a very big inducing, especially for, like the Pet Milk Building right now, they're trying to get, I think, all the paint off of the bricks. And if there were any grants available to help with that, I know it's very, very expensive. And then if we partnered with, just say we're going to partner with them alone would maybe.
Well, yeah, I'm not claiming these are the last word on the possibilities. These are just some ideas Carolyn had, and she documented them, and we can certainly.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out as an example. And the
Yeah.
property taxes on that building could be substantial, where 5% may raise eyebrows at the city when they say we want to,
Yeah.
So.
So I will pursue that a little bit with Carolyn if you would like, and see if we can elaborate on that list and so forth. And,
That's great. I would like to, if we need a motion, I'd like to move though that we adopt these two initiatives as goals for the commission going forward.
I'll second that.
A second by Amy. Motion made and seconded that we pursue these two initiatives, both looking at more historic possibilities around town and also looking at ways to fund or incentivize, rather, some of these owners who might be a little reluctant to get their name and so on in their building. So all those.
I had a comment about the incentive of money for people that have a landmark or historical building. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know someone will. Okay, now this may have changed currently, but I think didn't there used to be state and federal like a rebates or something on specific things when someone's working on a house and doing changes like that. I'm not sure about that, but you know, that addresses what John's thoughts about there needs to be some incentive, or it would be helpful to have some incentive to do this. Okay, again, I'm not sure. We need to check into this, but I think that actually used to be the case, and again, I don't know if that would currently still be the case. The thing to do would be to check with the State Historical Society, and they would, I think they could address that. And I'm not saying that's the resolution of what John is saying, but it seems to me in the distant past that may have been the case. I think that's something that we should check on. Maybe I could, for instance, the go-to guy is Joe DeRose. I could call him and ask him about that just as a point of some knowledge on the situation, and maybe even address, ask him about some other communities in the state. Do other communities have, in fact, a program just like what John's talking about?
I should say,
would lend weight to our suggestions if this type of thing is done somewhere else, and then to find out how exactly they do it. So I'd be willing to call him and ask him about these issues just to add some general information to it.
Joe DeRose actually retired late last year, so I'm not sure if there's a new contact.
Okay, well, there's got to be somebody that's replaced him.
I'm not exactly sure who replaced him. I know that they didn't add out, but
All right, let me interrupt. I think we have a motion that has been seconded on the floor and we did not vote yet. So does everyone understand the motion? Hearing no questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, everybody? Aye. All right, motion has been made, seconded, and passed that we will put a little emphasis on those two incentives. And we have a subcommittee of John and Eric, and who else? Does anybody else want to work on this? Amy, do you want to work with these two guys?
Sure. I can work with them.
We'll try not to lead you too far astray, but all right. There's a couple other things I would like to comment on in this section of the character. And one of them is strategy 1C, action C. Can you bring that up there? Yeah, identify where it may be desirable to establish design guidelines. And it says in there that would be the work of the Middleton Area Historical Society. Now you've changed that from what I have in my document. So my objection has just flown out the window then. You had Middleton Area Historical Society under item C at one time. When I got this document and printed these pages out, now it's gone, great. Because that's not something the Historical Society has any jurisdiction over or interest in really in the design of
right. And I think that was in Carolyn's comments as well. So those, I think she sent these back in December sometime. So I've already worked on this a little bit since then.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you got the Middleton Landmarks Commission. Yeah, I don't know that you even need to mention us in that last paragraph where you say we will establish these design guidelines in the archives. I suppose there might be something valuable in our archives, and we're certainly willing to open our doors to you, but I doubt that we have much that would be of interest, unless an old photo is something that might be of value. All right. And then what happened to item D? Encourage wider public exploration with the library. And I certainly would support a greater interaction with the library for the Historical Society, but we haven't been able to really create a vehicle or a window for doing that yet. And I think it's probably good to keep something like that in there, but it hasn't worked very well yet. Maybe with a brand new library or something, we'll be able to do something. If I could give a split second here of background, years ago, I proposed that we have a local history room in the library somewhere, and that stayed on their list of possibilities for a while, and then the idea of modifying the library kind of faded away for a while, went to the back burner until recently, last year, about a year from this time. Then the library approached us with an idea of naming a room in the library, the Middleton Area Historical Society room. And we debated that issue around and decided that it wasn't something that we were too excited about. So we voted that down as a board. But we would hope that, you know, at some point in time, there would be an opportunity for greater interaction. I had always hoped we would take all of our old photos and all of our old papers and so on that are housed in Raleigh House and have them in a nice room, environmentally controlled in the library somewhere, where people could access them throughout the year rather than just those 2 days a week when we're open. I thought that would be wonderful. That would be environmentally protected and the access would be much, much greater. But that hasn't happened. But hopefully that might be something down the road.
Be interested in that if that would come forth. Yeah, I'd like to work with the library.
Aha. One of the best examples of that, and you may have seen that, Sue, is at the DeForest Library. The DeForest Library has 4 rooms in the library that are the Historical Society rooms. 4 special rooms. So I've always held that up as an ideal, a goal.
Does the forest have any other buildings? They don't have anything like the Raleigh House or anything, do they? That are public, open to public?
Where's that?
Other-
DeForest?
In the forest.
Oh yeah, they've got like 3 other buildings, I think.
Oh, really?
Yep, more than
Well,
one, I think.
They don't have that much history.
The key was that the president of the Historic Society was the president of the library board. So there was, he had some nice leverage and we were pull it off.
Jeff, there's your blueprint.
What's it? Absolutely.
Yeah. I recommend that Jeff Martin be nominated to be president of the library board. Yeah, here we go.
Second.
If you're ever over in DeForest and have a few moments to kill, I invite you to go in their new library and see all of the opportunities they have there. Beautiful place. Okay, well, that's all I had really, unless someone else has something they want to address on those items in.
No, Jeff, although I'll point out, you know, you put Amy, John, and I on this subcommittee. So I think, you know, the whole president of the library thing, I think that's, you know, right back at you.
Do we have Carolyn's comments?
Yes, I have them right here.
Okay. I sent you an email to Daphne with the reworking too.
Oh, okay.
Well, Carolyn had some ideas there that sort of parallel the one instance parallel what I was saying about the design guidelines, but you have changed that paragraph quite a bit, so I'm a little happier with it now. Anyone else have any thoughts? Kathy, what else do we need to do here tonight? You're the one that really wanted to have us get together.
Well, are we going to talk about Carolyn's, or is everything on here taken care of already?
Are we looking at Carolyn's recommendations right now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I incorporated some of them. I'm not sure if all of them were applicable to the comp plan specifically.
Okay.
If you guys had any comments you would want to add, or you know, see some of the ones that you don't think made it in there, if you would want them to be in there, we can certainly talk.
Okay, the role of this term is only vaguely referenced to your thing. I'm not.
Well, what are we asking about what Carolyn has? Are we asking for some motion on what Carolyn has written, or are we just using this to take into account? Jeff, what do you think about that?
Well, I think some of her comments probably are a bit out of date now since Daphne has rewritten quite a few of these paragraphs. So I'm not sure how relevant some of them are. She seemed to be a little puzzled by the moving of the landmarks there, action B. And I think what we have been talking about was approaching some of the private landmark owners and saying, you know, do you really want this sign on your front porch? Or would you be happier with it on a rock out by the street or a signpost or whatever we decide? I thought that was the moving that we were talking about.
Yeah, I thought that's what we thought. That it would be better to take them off the homes themselves and make them more accessible. Yeah, so I'm good with that.
I think we should still pursue that initiative a little bit, and if at all possible. We've talked about, of course, the landmark plaques, updating them, and Daphne, I think it was you that did all of the rewriting and design work and everything, and where are they now?
That'll be in the staff, my staff updates that are after this. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'll have that.
All right.
But let me pull up Kathy's rewritten statement now, so we can maybe discuss this and maybe make a motion on this as well, and then we can, you know, move on.
Okay, what does everyone think of that statement?
I like it.
Me, for one, I don't support making a specific statement that we're proposing making a change from a specific zoning category to another category. I would prefer that we simply say that the commission requests that any changes to the zoning or to the site be harmonious, compatible, and sensitive to the historical significance. I prefer to leave it general there.
You didn't, well, it's broken out now where it's talking about the Raleigh House zoning. And I thought that was what we talked, that we don't want the Raleigh House zoned as government and institutional. We thought that the neighborhood, established neighborhood would be more appropriate.
Well, I don't understand why that's necessary. As long as the Raleigh House is there, it's not like they're going to change this and say the Raleigh House has to be raised now because it's not or institutional. And if the Raleigh House is no longer there, I don't know why the designation is necessary. Why we have a concern at that point.
What if we change the phrase supports changing the proposed zoning to something more benign, which would be, I don't know what, look into, reconsider, or something like that. I mean, are we, to make it less specific about changing it, I guess, is to look into the issue of changing it rather than just saying we're supporting it, although I guess we are doing that.
Was proposed zoning category.
I don't think there is any major issues like zoning wise of changing, you know, government and institutional into established neighborhoods for the Raleigh House. From like the zoning standpoint, like the Raleigh House is the Raleigh House, no matter what the underlying zoning is. But I think in this case, then it does give that, you know, preservation of character that is in the established neighborhoods.
I should have said in, it's right. It does make it, it specifically calls out what makes this special. In the second sentence where it says Landmark Commission supports changing the proposed zoning, it should say zoning category, I believe. Do you think that
or would, just like future land use?
Yeah, you could put category in there, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the statement myself. I kind of like it. We would like to, it's a proposed zoning. right? That's what we're talking about, is proposed
Yes.
zoning. That's what that map is. It's not zoned that way now, but the proposal is to zone it as government and institutional. And I think that's a mistake for the Raleigh House per se. So what Kathy has got in that second sentence, I think, is right on. We're supported, we support changing the proposed zoning from government or institution to established neighborhood or established mixed or something or whatever it is. And then we're really not saying anything about the neighborhood other
And
than
so this,
the last sentence, which says that we'd like City Hall to be harmonious and compatible and so on. We're not really putting specifics in there. I don't know.
with the Raleigh House and the historic homes, yeah.
I suppose a good lawyer could pick this apart, though. I don't know.
Well, I'm just one voice. I'm just one voice. But for me, I think it's beyond the Landmark Commission's purview to be directing, and by making this statement, we're not directing what we are by sticking our nose in it to say what zoning should and shouldn't be. Right now, the Raleigh House is there. As long as the Raleigh House is there, they can call it whatever they want for zoning. It's still going to be there. I don't think it's our place to be stepping in and saying to these other parts of our municipal government that we're saying it should be this zoning or that zoning.
Okay.
So,
And that's where we disagree, because if you have an historic property, it is ours to say, we think that the surrounding areas should be harmonious with it.
we certainly can, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about making this change to this property because what's sitting on it right now. Not saying
No,
we need to.
no, we're not changing what it is now.
No,
We're changing the thought that it might go to government and institutional. That's what the proposal on that map is. That's what
But
they're
as long as the Raleigh
suggesting.
part,
We're saying we don't like your suggestion.
I hear you. I hear you.
We don't like what you're suggesting, essentially is what we're saying. Color us something else.
yes,
Sorry?
color has established.
Color us red or green or something, but not that dark blue.
I think it also sends message that we're looking at this and we're paying attention to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, maybe, why don't we just say that? Say what you said. I looked at these proposals and these are things that have come to light and we were considering this. You can just say that.
Yeah, I think saying that.
It makes it a little more benign. It's not like we're telling them to actually, that we all support this and we want them to do it. We're basically saying, we looked at this. Why don't you look at this?
We're saying,
that is what we're saying.
we're requesting, it actually says request, that the future site, anything they put on there be harmonious and compatible. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No,
I support that statement. That's the statement I'll vote for.
And that's what it said. The first part of this just says Raleigh House. We are proposing that we change this to established neighborhood. Nothing wrong with that. I don't think either. But the commission requests future changes to City Hall site be harmonious and compatible and sensitive to what's in the what surrounds it. That's all this says to me.
Amy, what do we hear from you? What's your thoughts?
I don't know that I really have anything super strong thoughts wise. I can kind of see both sides of it.
Oh no, you can't do that.
I mean, I understand everyone's points. I definitely agree. The second sentence, I think that definitely works.
You mean by second, do you mean the last sentence or do you mean the
or sorry, yes, the last sentence. Kind of the second statement or the second other building. I wonder if just maybe rewording
Okay,
kind of the first, or I guess it would be the second sentence. Is it mostly kind of the supports changing? It seems like we're kind of pushing them into changing this zoning. Is that kind of the issue people are having?
yeah. Changing it from right now it's listed as a large scale building, and we would like it to say something more, that it's meets the surrounding neighborhood air, I don't have the
Mhm.
neighborhood. I think I could find it though.
Well, I would even support changing that second sentence to make it more positive, rather than say, we say supports changing the proposed zoning, we say we're opposed to the proposed zoning of government and institutional, and would prefer something on there. But I'm sure my lawyer friend here is gonna pounce on that one.
Okay, it proposes
I would say that
opposes the proposed zoning category.
we are opposed to rezoning, or to not rezoning. We are opposed to the proposal of zoning the Raleigh House
Okay,
as government and
Category.
institutional. I would make it more positive. I mean, the wording more.
okay, the Middleton
Yep,
Landmark
I'm
Commission.
chuckling at how we oppose this is the positive, but
Eric wants to see me in court. I can see that grin.
no,
The proposed zoning category, yeah.
Daphne, can you edit this, or Kathy, if you're editing it, can you share your screen maybe? So might
I'm on a
speed things.
different computer. I'm on a different computer editing.
Oh,
Listen,
yeah.
currently listed as,
Oh, sure.
but I can email it to Daphne quickly, so.
Well, we could reconvene about midnight and.
Okay, so
Finalize this if
the
you
Middleton
want.
Landmarks Commission opposes the proposed zoning category of the Raleigh House currently listed as government and institutional. We feel a more appropriate would be established neighborhood.
And this would all just be basically a recommendation to Plan Commission. Plan Commission may, they might say, no, we don't accept that. I don't see any of them being opposed to changing it from, the blue to the yellow. But, this would be, presented as a recommendation at Plan Commission next Tuesday. And then, they would, ultimately decide. So it's not like, Landmarks Commission is saying, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. It's
Okay.
being proposed to Plan Commission.
Could I, and I know because it's coming out of my mouth that some might say, but can I propose some alternative wording here? And I'll just say it and then you guys can decide, yeah, we like it, we don't, but starting at the second sentence, the Middleton Landmark Commission is concerned with the proposed zoning of the Raleigh House Museum for Government and institutional category, and supports in designating the zoning of that site that it reflect its historical significance and residential architecture.
Okay, established neighborhood is for already developed neighborhoods in the city, preservation of urban neighborhood scale and character while providing a variety of housing options to meet the needs of a diverse population. Building types would include blah, blah, blah. Okay, I thought that this had more about the residential character. It doesn't.
Here's the reason why I worded it that way is I think us saying, just as you all have been saying, that we're concerned by this designation and just want to make sure that you're thinking about the historical significance of this building and that it is a residential building that is now a museum. I think those are all good statements. And I think those would all be accepted positively by another committee that has its purview. I think if I'm on another committee and a committee that doesn't have any business telling us what to do, tells us, you don't call it this, you call it that, when I spent a number of meetings, many hours considering these different categories, I say whatever, and I toss it in the bin. And that's why I would prefer that we just, if we're going to make a statement of concern, that we just say that we're concerned. We want to make sure that the zoning reflects the character of this building, and we support you considering that in selecting.
Okay,
the
so
category.
tell me again, the Middleton Landmark Commission, what, the proposed zoning?
The Middleton Landmark Commission is concerned about the zoning of the Rowley House Museum as being.
Hold on, not so fast, I'm typing this. Okay. The commission is concerned about the Rowley, the zoning of the Rowley House? Or about the Rowley House
The
Museum
proposed
zoning?
zoning of the Rowley House Museum in the government and institutional category, period.
This is pretty, okay. And so instead of opposes, you just wanted to say is concerned about the proposed zoning category of the Rowley House Museum currently listed as government and institutional.
Period.
Right. And then I have, we feel a more appropriate, or now you wanted to say,
The Landmarks Commission supports consideration of the architectural and historical significance of the Rowley House Museum as a residential building in selecting the appropriate zoning category, period.
when
Now it's going to sound like a planning document.
selecting what?
The appropriate zoning category.
Okay,
And then continue with the sentence furthermore. I think that sentence fits well and discusses our concern with the future development.
okay, I'm gonna send this over to Daphne in an email and she can pull it up. Daphne, you okay with that? Okay, Daphne, let's try that one on. I see there's a typo in it somewhere. So okay. Jeff, what's the picture behind you while we're waiting?
That is a lake up north in Bayfield County,
Oh, really?
and it is for sale.
The lake or the photo?
Can you
The
tell us
photo of
which
the
one?
lake. The photo is for sale.
You got to make the price tags bigger so we can see how much you're asking.
Oh, I have a friendly price for people like you on the
Oh.
Landmark Commission, yeah.
Jeff, are you the photographer or just a collector?
No, I dabble in photography, yes.
Well, I don't think dabbling is the correct term, but I'll let you get away with it.
I do try to sell my work, yes.
By the way, Jeff, your holiday card of the Rowley House was really nice. You got that with ice on the tree, or you backlit that tree? You did something, you little rascal.
That was shot on New Year's Eve. When the snow came down.
Yeah, so the snow was on the branches, yeah.
Snow was on the branches. The little candles were lit in our windows at Rowley House, yeah.
No photoshopping was used in the making of this picture.
What's that?
No photoshopping was used in the making of this picture.
No. Well, that's not quite true. One of our candles was not lit, so I had to copy one from another window and put it in there.
I asked you not to tell me that. Okay.
I think we could use and the third line down, architecture and historical significance as a residential building. Did you catch that, John?
Yep.
And of course, quotation marks around established neighborhood.
Did we take that out?
It's not there.
Oh, I
Well,
was going to take that out, I think. We feel more appropriate category. We were going to take that whole line out, that we feel a more appropriate. We were going to let them pick the category.
I appreciate you saying that, Kathy, because I thought that was being snuck in.
No, I just didn't delete it yet.
Put that in as a footnote.
So, Daphne, can you delete that part of it? We feel on the fourth line down, we feel a more appropriate category would be, we're going to take that out.
Yeah, I mean, what we can do is, if you guys have finalized this like statement, we can, you know, in your motion or whatever, you can just say, take, you know, that part out, and then I'll put it in the minutes as, you know, whatever final version you guys would like.
All right. Eric makes the motion to approve that statement.
With the changes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Susan seconds it. Suzanne seconds it.
With the removal of the, we feel the more appropriate category would be
Yeah.
established, or take that out and add the significance as a residential building.
All right, motion has been made and seconded to approve this statement, and then we will what? Send it to the planning commission? What happens?
Right, so I can actually incorporate those changes in our planning document. We'll have like a memo that's sent to the planning commission. That will be included, and then
All right,
they'll make that.
Is everyone in favor? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passed unanimously, I believe. I didn't hear from Brian, but we'll assume he said
No,
yes.
I said I did. Aye.
All right. Is there any other topic that we should talk about? Any other topics that we should discuss here tonight?
I just have some quick updates for you guys, and then we can
All right.
adjourn the meeting.
Staff updates.
Yeah, so they're with the landmark plaque.
You're not leaving the country, are you? Joining Biden's staff somewhere?
No, but I do have a friend who's on his staff, which is very exciting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was very exciting. But anyways, for landmarks, the plaques, I've started contacting some of the plaque owners just to let them know, you know, we've worked on these plaque changes and updates, just to, you know, have them aware, you know, if someone comes to their door with a new plaque, you know, they shouldn't be surprised or anything like that. And then we're in discussion with Alpha Graphics on installation and getting some of the boulders. I believe there are maybe 5 or 6 houses that we've seen are have the plaques on the buildings, and they do have space, you know, somewhere on their lawn or in the space between the sidewalk and the street for a boulder. So those will have further discussion with those property owners. And then also back in, I believe, late November, early December, Rob Nuri contacted me about the Heim effigy mound, and he actually did a burning out there. And then unfortunately the week after it snowed, so we couldn't get any of the drone footage. So I believe that will just have to come around when the snow melts again. We'll be in contact with him. So those are my updates.
All right. Okay, any other business, any new business that we should talk about? No,
Hey,
hearing none.
Jeff,
John
just
has something.
on a side note, along with Kathy's letter, can't the Middleton Historical Society send a similar concern to the Planning Commission? Since you own not you, but the Historical Society owns the Raleigh House. It's a separate entity from the Landmarks Commission.
Yeah, and then I can say what I want. That's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. Oh, it'll be a scathing letter. Ha.
Well, and then while you're at it, Jeff, put the thing where we want 4 rooms in the new library.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
If you want to get that done, let's put Jeff up as president of the board. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, he's already there. All right, anything else? No comments? Shall we adjourn the meeting? No? Yes, all those in
I'll
favor?
make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn accepted. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All done.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, Daphne.
Yes, and thank you, Sue.